Where's that video of Rishi Sunak talking about how, like, if you're feeling depressive, then you just need to get over it or something? Yeah, here we go.
In the period since
Speaking of what a blighted country you guys live in.
the pandemic, something has gone wrong. The proportion of people who are economically inactive in Britain is still lower than our international peers, and lower today than in any year under the last Labour government.
Again, I have to remind everyone going into this, London is the only actual city in the UK, or at the very least in England. Outside of London, the poverty is greater than that of like any US state. Like if you remove London, the entirety of England is a backwater that in America we would consider to be like not just flyover country, but wretchedly poor. London is the only actual center of economic production and commerce in the UK. It's insane. Yeah, no, it legitimately is like if you took Mississippi, but put New York City inside of it. Like that actually, that literally is it. Like that actually describes the situation.
Since the pandemic, 850,000 more people have joined this group due to long-term sickness. We need to be more ambitious about helping people back to work, and more honest about the risk of over-medicalizing the everyday challenges and worries of life.
I'll just cut through the euphemisms. GPs will soon be stripped of the ability to sign people off work as part of a major government initiative to crack down on sick note culture. So basically, get back to work. It doesn't matter if you're sick or suffering. Get back to work. You are literally not allowed to call out of work. By the way, I saw this scrolling down. The top comment to this sounds familiar with a Nazi advert here. This person who suffers a hereditary disease has a lifelong cost of 60,000 Reichmarks to the national community. Comrade, that is your money too. Of course, the Nazis exterminated their disabled because they weren't useful to the state. This might seem hyperbolic. I actually think this is the same thing. I genuinely think this is the same ideology. Straight down the line, this is just a more advanced form of this. This isn't just like, look, if you want to fire people for calling sick 50 days a year, that's one thing. Okay, we're talking about like we're talking about a level of ableism that effectively precludes like the chronically ill or people with habitual pain. There are so many things that make it difficult to do this moment by moment, day by day work, and it's already difficult for people in that position. But can you imagine the government literally saying, no, we're banning this now? Like, how insane is that? It is genuinely like a Hitlerite position to take, you know? Burning through your population out of service to the state, you know? This is a fascist attitude towards the individual.
Fail to address this, and we risk not only letting those people down, but creating a deep sense of unfairness amongst those whose taxes fund our social safety net.
A lifelong cost of 60,000 Reichmarks. Comrade, that is your money too.
Just as we help move people from welfare into work, we've got to do more to stop people going from work to welfare. Now, the whole point of replacing the sick note with the fit note was to stop so many people just being signed off as sick. Instead of being told you're not fit for work, the fit note provided the option to say that you may be fit for work, with advice about what you can do and
what kind of insane nanny state do you guys live in? I know that I have like a fake job, but my understanding is that the way calling out sick works in America is you call and you say, I'm sick. And then depending on where you work, like maybe they ask you to find your replacement for the day, or like call in someone else or something, or you have like a sick day, or sometimes you get like what is this like government fit day? What is this? This is some like insane nanny state stuff. Again, I'm not defending the way American corporations treat their workers. It's abysmal. But like Jesus. No, I'm not pretending America is good on sick day. I'm just saying that we're libertarian on sick days. Why is the state involved in the definition of a sick day? That's my point. In America, a sick day isn't some like like government term. It's just a sick day. Here, over here, apparently there's like a government term here for this. I don't know. It's because sick day in the UK is, but you can get paid sick days in America too. But my understanding, at least from my friends, is that if you have a sick day that you want to take in America, the way you do that is you call and say, I'm sick, I'm going to take a sick day. Not like, I'm going to go to the NHS and get a doctor to sign me a note to give me a one official sick day good boy chicken nugget dollar that I'm going to give to you. Like, I don't know. In the UK, it's legally required to be paid while you're sick. In the US, it's not required to be paid. Okay, all right, that makes sense. That could explain the involvement of the state to some extent. Though, I mean, I guess not to the point we're going to right now here, fit day or whatever the fuck else. So then the purpose of the fit day is, how do people call out sick without getting paid then? Is that correct? That's the reason why you have this little this distinction, you know, this little separate taxonomy for fit days, because that wouldn't mean you get paid for them.
What adaptations or support would enable you to stay in or return to work quickly? 11 million of these fit notes were issued last year alone. But what proportion were signed maybe fit for work?
After 7 days, the UK employer must issue a fit note which certifies the employee as either fit or unfit for labor. Why? That sounds so Hitlerite. The employer has to? What, to tell the government to liquidate you? Well, not fit for, like, goodbye? What is that? Okay. I'm going to take the time to learn about the details of your insane system in the future. This is a new negative development. Whatever I know or don't know now, this is new. Then none of us know it because the speech happened today. This is 12 hours old. So, you know, none of us know this, I think, unless you've seen it in the past 12 hours.
Just 6%. We don't just need to change the sick note.
Wait. Employees must give their employer a fit note. Okay, I need to be careful with chat. The person in chat who I read out loud said it the other way, that the employer needs to give a fit note. That's a different thing. Yeah, Kakao win. Vosh, after 7 days, the UK employer must issue a fit note. It's not that, okay? Hey man, typo. So a fit note is a sick note. Fit to work or not fit to work. Yeah, Black in the Borg. Everyone of importance in the UK is a member of the aristocracy. If employees are off work for 7 days or less, they do not need to give their employer a fit note or other proof of sickness from a healthcare professional. When they return to work, their employer can ask them to confirm they've been off sick. This is called self-certification. Oh, well, that sounds based. That sounds based as hell. Why aren't people just taking like 7 days off, 1 day on all the time? Take a look at the last paragraph. In the US, you can't fire someone for being sick, but in the UK, you can, even while they're out. Ah, there it is. So the thing preventing British people from calling out sick all the time is the fact that they can be slammed for it. Okay, gotcha. All right, we're caught up. A different version of hell than the one we live in. All right. Now, with all this new knowledge in mind, let's watch it back from the beginning.
In the period since the pandemic, something has gone wrong. The proportion of people who are economically inactive in Britain is still lower than our international peers, and lower today than in any year under the last Labour government. But since the pandemic, 850,000 more people have joined this group due to long-term sickness. We need to be more ambitious about helping people back to work, and more honest about the risk of over-medicalising the everyday challenges and worries of life. Fail to address this, and we risk not only letting those people down, but creating a deep sense of unfairness amongst those whose taxes fund our social safety net. Just as we help move people from welfare into work, we've got to do more to stop people going from work to welfare. Now, the whole point of replacing the sick note with the fit note was to stop so many people just being signed off as sick. Instead of being told you're not fit for work, the fit note provided the option to say that you may be fit for work, with advice about what you can do and what adaptations or support would enable you to stay in or return to work quickly.
I don't understand this system, by the way. I don't understand the motivation for any of this. Isn't the obvious best way to handle this to just have a state-mandated number of sick days that you get per year, which is generous? And for people who have like very debilitating or long-term stuff, they can get like some kind of disability certification from a government application form that would allow them to have some kind of leverage when negotiating the specifics of their workplace hours or how they do their work or how many times they get to leave. And then that would be that. We already do. That's what we have now. No, it isn't. We just read what you have now, and it's not what I just described at all. How do you determine the standard number of sick days? 364.
Quickly, 11 million of these fit notes were issued last year alone. But what proportion were signed maybe fit for work? Just 6%. We don't just need to change the sick note, we need to change the sick note culture so that the default becomes what work you can do, not what you can't. Building on the pilots that we've already started, we're going to design a new system where people have easy and rapid access to specialised work and health support to help them back to work from the very first fit note conversation. It used to be that if you worked just 9 hours a week, you'd get full benefits without needing to look for additional work.
Based.
That's not right.
All right, I won't be facetious. 9 hours isn't a lot of time. That's true. It's not very productive.
Because if you can work more, you should. So we're changing.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Sorry, I paused too early because the 9 hours thing, you know. But then the second part, if you can, you should. Really, almost like you think citizens live for the good of the state. Like literally, like this is fascist rhetoric. If you can work, you should work. Well, what if you want to spend time with your family? Oh, well, that's a secondary consideration, you know?
Without needing to look for additional work. That's not right. Because if you can work more, you should.
See, that right, this is one of the fundamental tenets of fascism, not in a cultural sense, but in a like governmental and economic sense. Well, there's an overlap there, but whatever. Outside the culture war nonsense, devotion of one's life to the state. You live to serve the state. That is what you are born to do. Women born to the state live to produce children and to raise them and such, you know. And men exist to make the state strong, military, economy, whatever else. If you can work more, you should.
So we're changing the rules. Anyone working less than half a full-time week will now have to try and find extra work in return for claiming benefits. We need to match the support people need to the actual conditions they have, and help people live independently and remove the barriers they face.
Wafflin. This is only a little section or a little highlight of the speech. There's more that's shown here. There's more here, right?
I want to set out today 5 conservative reforms for a new welfare settlement for Britain. First, we must be more ambitious in assessing...
No. Vosh, I think you're not understanding the broader political context here. This is part of a multi-decade campaign to eliminate benefits for people with chronic conditions and disabilities. Well, I don't think anything I said contradicts that. It's just euphemisms for f off and die to anyone with lifelong illness. It's not fascism, more like 19th century Rockefeller shit. Yeah, but I don't think that 19th century Rockefeller shit exists anymore. I think that like now that the nation or the state has won in the dynamic between itself and the corporation, like we don't have cities that are run by corporations anymore. Like the government has run and now the corporation works through the government. I think that fascism is now the modern apparatus of that line. Like I think that 19th century Rockefeller shit would be fascism if it was displaced in time to today, or even to 100 years ago, right? Because this is how fascism starts. This is how it started. Well, I shouldn't say this is how it started. This is how it has developed and festered over the past 20 years in the United States, right? The Republicans' primary goals as leaders have been pro-business policies. Everything else has been secondary to that. The problem is when 99% of your voters are proletarian, it's really difficult to get them to vote in favor of curtailing their own interests over and over and over again. So how do you convince these poor Appalachian coal miners to vote for, policies that'll make their life harder? Well, you lie to them, of course, and you distract them. Historically, you distract them with racial issues, right? But as time goes on, as you build and build on these cultural divides as a way of convincing people to vote against their economic interest, the culture war starts taking greater prominence in the minds not just of the voter, but of the politician, right? So 20 years ago, Republicans would front reactionary policy for a variety of reasons, but a large part of it was convincing people to vote against their interests. But now, the MAGA crowd in Congress, like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz or whatever, they're not like cynical pro-businessman people. I think they would sell America's economy down the river if it meant being racist enough, you know? Past a point, it stops being about, you know, oh, well, all of this is like a distraction from the tax break for the wealthy or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of like a modern Southern strategy, but fundamentally, it is just capitalism in decay. Everything that I just said, capitalism in decay, right? This is how they fought the unions 100 years ago, by the way, even back in the Rockefeller days, up to today. How do you get people to not join a union? Well, you can kill them, or you can convince them that, you know, the black man they might be working with wants to take away their money, or immigrants, or whatever else. Yeah, all politics is about Hitler, basically. Vosh, I think this is the Atlantic split on this. Sunak's positions on this aren't unpopular with voters. This is wildly popular with centrists and conservatives. The story is like, it's not fair you work hard with these scroungers get a free ride. No, yeet, de, eat. That's the fascism. That you're describing it. Conservatives and centrists who hate the poor and who hate the greedy leeches. Didn't you see that Hitlerite poster that I put up? Like, this is a fun, and if you disagree with me on the fascist thing, the idea of like parasites leeching off society, this is like textbook fascist rhetoric. And if you're thinking, well, if it's fascist, why do so many conservatives believe in it then? Well, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Nobody knows.
People's potential for work. Right now, the gateway to ill health benefits is writing too many off, leaving them on the...
Look, I'll just leave you with the cleanest example of this dynamic that I have ever examined in history, which is the welfare queen. The welfare state in America after FDR elevated more people out of poverty than literally anything else we ever did. And when Reagan came around in the 80s, and I'm simplifying a bit, but, you know, they want to crack down on the welfare state. They want to crack down on government assistance, you know. So how do you convince poor voters? Because a lot of Republican voters are poor, right? How do you convince poor voters to vote in favor of politicians who will take their rights away? You tell them that the blacks are also getting those benefits, that they're eating lobster and steak and driving around Lambos off of money they didn't earn. And like that, kablamo. Conservative support for welfare drops to negative 5 million%. That's all it took.
Wrong type of support, and with no expectation of trying to find a job with all the advantages.
Vosh, don't conflate fascism with authoritarianism, by the way. Easy mistake. I'm not. We're not talking even remotely about government authority at all. None of this has anything to do with the ability of the state to intervene in your life. We're talking about like the cultural attitude towards leeches. The Brits are coping. The Brits are coping. The Brits are coping.
That brings. In 2011, 20% of those doing a work capability assessment were deemed unfit to work. But the latest figure now stands at 65%. That's wrong. People are not 3 times sicker than they were a decade ago.
I mean...
And the world of work has changed dramatically. Now, of course, those with serious, debilitating conditions should never be expected to work. But if you have a low-level mobility issue, your employer could make reasonable adjustments, perhaps including adaptations to enable you to work from home. And if you're feeling anxious or depressed, then of course you should get the support and treatment you need to manage your condition. But that doesn't mean we should assume you can't engage in work. That's not going to help you. And it's not fair on everyone else either. So we're going to tighten up the work capability assessment such that hundreds of thousands of benefit recipients with less severe conditions will now be expected to engage in the world of work and be supported to do so. Second, just as we help move people from welfare into work, we've got to do more to stop people going from work to welfare. Now, the whole point of replacing the sick note with the fit note was to stop so many people just being signed off as sick. Instead of being told you're not fit for work, The fit note provided the option to say that you may be fit for work, with advice about what you
Lamal Vosh, this policy just made Tories slump from the... Show me the poll. I must agree, link them. It's literally that black in the board.
can do.
We saw this part.
Government assess whether their own patients, their expectations of them in return for receiving.
Half the country, even the adult working population, is on welfare of some form or another. Because it's a poor country. Like, legitimately, the majority, the vast majority of the UK, or at the very least of England, is like a backwater country. This is some Romanian shit, okay? Like, seriously. You've got London, and then you have, like, Poland, generously. At least Poland has culture, so they're Catholic.
Benefits. Because when the taxpayer is supporting you to get back on your feet, you have an obligation to put in the hours. And if you do not make that effort, you can't expect the same level of benefits.
Disabled people must work from home to do their duty, says UK minister. Fascist rhetoric. Hundreds of thousands of people will be told to look for work that they can do from home or face having their benefits cut by £4,600 a year under plans that were first reported by the Times. And they're really not going out popular, huh?
It used to be that if you worked just 9 hours a week,
Okay, we did this.
you'd get more access to the world of work. Now, one of my other big concerns about the system is that the longer you stay on welfare, the harder it can be to go back to work.
By the way, just to be really clear in case anybody is curious, okay? I do think that in order for modern civilization to exist, people do have to work. I don't think you can literally have an entire population of everyone just sitting at home jerking off and gooning in their goon cave and not, you know, like, I do think people should work. I do think even disabled people, if they can work, I want to build a world where work feels fulfilling for everyone, and I think that it is possible to build such a world, and I think that most everyone can contribute. I think that contributing feels good. I want everyone to be like a member of society. The problem is that the Tories in particular are undoing everything that we've learned over the past century of how to build a civilization, right? Like, everything is getting worse, and they're doing all the things that makes it worse, right? So, privatizing and stripping away the NHS, you know, massive consolidation of the country's economy into finance in London with very little attention being paid to other parts of England, you know, like a culture that, like, you know, encourages atomization because they have their own up car culture in the UK because after the bombings, blah, 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 right? Like, there's so much bad shit going on in the UK. Guys, the UK is so... They voted yes to Brexit. They got one brown guy swam across the channel and they were like, yeah! And cut themselves off from the European Union, the second largest economic bloc in the world. Like, look, one guy, like, it's a lunatic country. They have nothing. It's a dead country. It's insane. Okay. So, like, again, the reason why things are so f***ed over there is because we've entered like a shit heel cascade spiral. Okay, like, this is worse than the shit going over in Japan. This is like, God damn, man. They privatized water infrastructure. Yeah, just the same, just literally, you guys had a functioning country after World War II. A very racist, freshly bombed country, but you had a country. And since then, everything has been cut up and divided and picked away. Do you know why we talk about Russian oligarchs? Because they did quickly what UK aristocrats did slowly. That's it. Yes, Scotland is better than the UK. We know. Thank you. Just then secede already. You're clearly better than the things you're attached to. Fastest drop in living standards since records began. Jesus, look! Growth in real disposable household income in the G7. The UK is in the negatives between 2019 and 2023. Beaten out by Italy and Germany, Japan, France and Canada, and the US is mogging everyone because our COVID recovery was insanely good. Like I said, there's a reason I say dead country. There are a lot of bad countries out there. The UK is a dead country, okay? It's a dead country. And this, you know, this is just like necromancers poking at it with sticks. It's grotesque. It's grotesque. So again, I'm not saying no one should work. I'm saying that, like, these gleeful hobgoblin aristocrat that ruined everything they know what they're doing, and they hate you, and it's a dead country, and they hate you. Okay.
Work. Around 500,000 people have been unemployed for 6 months, and well over 250,000 have been unemployed for 12 months. These are people with no...
This is you being bad at city skylines, okay? If you have problems like everyone's sick and unemployed, that's not a them problem. That's not an individual failing issue. You f***ed up. These are civilizational issues. You can't wake up one day, notice, wow, literally everyone in my country, the country I rule, the country I'm in charge of, has shit life syndrome. You know? Damn, they all suck.
Medical conditions that prevent them from working, and who will have benefited from intensive employment support and training programs. There is no reason these people should not be in work, especially when we have...
They built the waste disposal right next to water purifiers. They're all drinking the poop water. Rishi Sunak and the Tories, they all put the goddamn poop funnel right upstream of where the water goes in. The poverty rate has reached 22%. 22? Oh my God. 3 in 10 children. 1 in every 3 children in the United Kingdom lives in poverty. The United Kingdom. Dead country. God, it's not even new. Children have been at about 30% poverty rate since the 90s. I wish this went back to Thatcher's administration. I bet that would paint an interesting picture.
Almost 1 million job vacancies. So we will now look at options to strengthen our regime. Anyone who doesn't comply with the conditions set by their work coach, such as accepting an available job, will, after 12 months, have their claim closed and their benefits removed entirely. Because unemployment support should be a safety net, never a lifestyle choice. Fourth, we need to match the...
Lifestyle choice. Fascist rhetoric. The idea that people who are on welfare are leeches who are deliberately suckling from the system, taking resources that should go to productive members of society.
Support people need to the actual conditions they have. And help people live independently and remove the barriers they face. But we need to look...
Was Thatcher worse than Reagan? Honestly, I think so. Yeah. Just Reagan is in charge, or was in charge, of a much larger and more powerful country. So the stuff that Reagan did had a much greater influence, like, world, but like pound for pound, you know? Really? Yeah, I think so. I think she might have been worse. Yeah.
Look again at how we do this through personal independence payments. I worry about it being misused. Now, its purpose is to contribute to the extra costs people face as they go about their daily life.
It's worth mentioning that although they've been close, the UK has never had a revolution against the ruling class. Well, I mean, leaving aside even like a revolution as the marker, everyone powerful in the UK is an aristocrat. In America, there are many wealthy and powerful people, but a lot of them exist in the same social classes that we do. There are wealthy people who own bunches and bunches of car dealerships, and they just like go to the resort or the beach or whatever. Like, a lot of people come up from nothing. You know, there's not a lot of social mobility in the United States, but people exist in very, very different social circles, even if they are wealthy. Like, old money isn't that much of a thing in the US. In the United Kingdom, all of them go to the same private schools. All of them. The journalists, the bankers, the politicians, all of the powerful people in the United Kingdom. They know each other. They went to class together. They all know each other. They're aristocrats. Aristocrats. We don't have those over here in the United States. US is the same? No, it's not. It is not. Literally 3 of the 5 last British prime ministers were part of the same class of the same school. Insane shit. Child poverty in the UK. Oh, is it really that easy? You're kidding. It's that clear? It's so obvious that it feels like fake. Well, we need to finish this. I just get depressed thinking about the UK.
Take, for example, those who need money for aids or assistance with things like handrails or stair lifts. Often they're already available at low cost or free from the NHS or local authorities. And they're one-off costs. So it probably isn't right that we're paying an ongoing amount every year. We also need to look specifically at the way personal independence payments support those with mental health conditions. Since 2019, the number of people claiming PIP, citing anxiety or depression as their main condition, has doubled, with over 5,000 new awards on average every single month.
You failed at playing SimCity, or city skylines if half your country wakes up depressed every day.
But for all the challenges they face, it's not clear they have the same degree of increased living costs as those with physical conditions. And the whole system is undermined by the way people are asked to make subjective and unverifiable claims about their capability.
Bro, depression? That sounds like some fake bullshit to me. What, is that like a broken arm? You can still move your arms, can't you? Come on, get back to work.
So, in the coming days, we will publish a...
Wouldn't the Southern slave owners be aristocrats? No. No, no, no. An aristocracy isn't just like a group of wealthy people in a separate class. An aristocracy refers to a very specific, like, very concentrated hereditary class. Like, they have a House of Lords over there in the UK. And it's illegal class as well. Like, there's a distinction, too. It doesn't necessarily have to be legal, but, like, they have that in the UK. You know, over here in America, we just have the capital class, but we don't have aristocrats.
Consultation on how we move away from that to a more objective and rigorous approach that focuses support on those with the greatest needs and extra costs. We will do that by being more precise about the type and severity of mental health conditions that should be eligible for PIP. We'll consider linking...
You're thinking of nobility, not aristocracy? Aristocracy are also usually very, very highly hereditary. Like, the nobility are under the king, but the aristocracy, like, oh, you know, I go to Ayton, my father went to Ayton, like, I'm not saying it's literally a direct lineage, but I'm saying, like, there is again, I can only say that if you're in the UK, you know what I'm talking about, and if you're in the USA, you don't, because we don't have it. We just don't have it here, you know? It's like those classic London phone booths that got made the Doctor Who thing. We just don't we don't have them here, you know. It's wild.
That assessment more closely to a person's actual condition and requiring greater medical evidence to substantiate a claim. All of which will make the system fairer and harder to exploit. And we'll also consider whether some people with mental health conditions should get PIP in the same way through cash transfers, or whether they'd actually be better supported.
Inherited wealth is royalty? No, royalty is royalty. Would you say the Waltons or the Rothschilds or whatever be a sort of halfway? There have been individual families that have been almost dynastic in their power, like the Kennedys or the Clintons, right? Like those exist to an extent, but the aristocracy is a social class, you know? It's not just like some families. Can we move on from this? The Rothschilds are literally British. Oh, well, there's that too, I guess.
To lead happier, healthier, and more independent lives through access to treatment, like talking therapies or respite care. I want to be completely clear about what I'm saying here. This is not about making the welfare system less generous to people who face very real extra costs from mental health conditions. For those with the greatest needs, we actually want to make it easier to access with fewer requirements. And beyond the welfare system, we're delivering the largest expansion in mental health services in a generation, with almost £5 billion of extra funding over the past 5 years, and a near doubling of mental health training places. But our overall approach is about saying that people with less severe mental health conditions should be expected to engage in the world of work. And fifth, we can't allow fraudsters to exploit the natural compassion and generosity of the British people. We've already cracked down on thousands of people wrongly claiming universal credit, including those not self-reporting earnings or hiding capital. And we'll save the taxpayer £600 million by legislating...
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring out one more point. Just one more single point, okay? Listen, you know how Boris Johnson was like the most oafish, you know, like buffoonish caricature of a British slob you could imagine. And he is the Right Honourable Boris Johnson, who attended Eton and Oxford, or sorry, Balliol College, Oxford in his youth, and was president of the Oxford Union. Like, if you trace back basically every, like, important or powerful person in the United Kingdom, they all go back to a tiny, tiny, tiny collection of schools and family groups. And, like, yeah, the journalists, the politicians, whatever, they all, and this, again, this isn't a conspiracy. It's literally just a aristocracy. It actually doesn't have anything to do with, like, race even. He's part of it. It's just like a hyper elite social caste that, you know, you're not a part of. I went to Yale and met a lot of posh Brits as an undergrad. They all came in knowing each other already. Vast majority had come from a handful of high schools. God, it's cursed.
To access vital data from third parties like banks. Just this month, DWP secured guilty verdicts against a Bulgarian gang caught making around 6,000 fraudulent claims, including by hiding behind a corner shop in North London.
What?
And we're going further. We're using all the developments in modern technology, including artificial intelligence, to crack down on exploitation in the welfare system that's taking advantage of the hard-working taxpayers who fund it. We are preparing a new fraud bill for the next Parliament, which will align DWP with HMRC, so that we treat benefit fraud like tax fraud, with new powers to make seizures and arrests, and will also enable penalties to be applied to a wider set of fraudsters through a new civil penalty. Because when people see others in their community gaming the system that their taxes pay, it erodes support for the very principle of the welfare.
Yeah, fascism, fascism, fascism. Boris from when he was at Ayton. David Cameron is also in this pic. Yeah, like shit like this is what I mean, okay? This is like, oh my god. This is such a specific... Yeah, the chums are out in force. Chums, how a tiny cast of Oxford Tories took over the UK. Cupper's Oxford experience was partly filtered through an outsider's perspective. One of the biggest culture shocks, he says, was British people's obsession with class and where they were in the hierarchy. I didn't really have class anxieties. Most of Cooper's friends in Oxford were middle-class people who went to state schools. Cooper went to a comprehensive. People have said, oh, he's just jealous of Johnson, he's resentful. He had a bad time at Oxford, but I had a good time at Oxford, da-da-da. There have been 5 Ayton and Oxford prime ministers since the war. Christ alive. Ayton tells you, this is the route to power. It's going to the Oxford Union. It's speaking well. Everyone in the British establishment 100 or 200 years ago looks like you. This is going to be you. They literally have a club where they burn money in front of homeless people and smash up pubs just to pay for the damage to flex their money that Boris was a part of. That's great. The club selects its members not only on the grounds of wealth and willingness to participate, but also by reference their education. It was originally a sporting club dedicated to cricket and horse racing. Of fucking course it was. Oh my god. Lowell, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton are exactly the same. Transcender, I don't know why you keep, like, disagreeing with this in chat. I feel like half my responses have been to you. They're not. They're not. Even in the most elite institutions in the United States, we have nowhere near the class distinction. It simply does not exist. It just doesn't. Oh my god, you really are just a coping Britbonger. Holy shit! Oh my, dude, he's like, in America we have eating problems too. Transcender, unironically, like, actually f*** off. You're a blight to your country, and you're the reason why it's sinking into the ocean. The Atlantic welcomes you. Your petty nationalism gets in the way of you recognizing the problems with your country. Yeah, the United Kingdom makes America look like a haven of class mobility. It's insane. If ever you want to feel like this is a land of opportunity, just compare us to this.